asked me to introduce Susan tonight, which was very exciting for me because I've been a long time admirer of Susan and of Angie as well. I was also nervous coming here too, and I remember that a psychic once told me that I should join Toastmasters, and I totally forgot about that. And I should have listened to her, but she was wrong about everything else. So, but I keep going to her because she's funny. So, so the first Susan Musgrave book that I ever got was when I was 18. It was Forcing the Narcissist, and my mom bought it for me when she heard Susan read at a literary festival on Hornby Island. My family used to go to Hornby every year, but I missed that year because I had a new job. So I missed my vacation, and I missed out on meeting Susan, but she signed my book, and she wrote, "With Thoughts of Hornby, Susan Musgrave." And I loved the book. I found its contents rich, brutally honest, powerful, and disturbing. And the poems were, for me as a young writer, very inspiring. Susan has published 25 books. She's a poet, novelist, children's writer, essayist, columnist, and frequent guest on the CBC. Her latest poetry collections are When the World is Not Our Home, Selected Poems, and Obituary of Light, the Sangan River Meditations. Next year, Origami Dove will be released by McLean and Stewart. She's been described as everything from a stand-up comedian to an eco-feminist. She lives on Vancouver Island and on Haida Gwaii. She's been nominated and has received awards in 6 different categories of writing: poetry, fiction, nonfiction, personal essay, children's writing, and for her work as an editor. She has been described as a fearless woman on the page and on the stage, quite possibly Canada's greatest living poet. More recently, I received another of Susan's books from a remote island. It was Obituary of Light. It arrived in my mailbox tied with a beautiful pink ribbon. It was sent to me by Angie, who wrote in her letter that she was now spending time with Susan, and that incredibly she's become one of my friends. So on the inscription, Susan wrote, "For Leah, any friend of the celebrated celebrity Angie Lawrence. Maybe I hope to meet you on the banks of the Sangan one day. But the library is good too. And return a book." No, just kidding. So it's my pleasure tonight to introduce my close personal friend, Susan Musgrave. You don't need Toastmasters. If had I known, I would have written something more profound than whatever I wrote. But it's hard. People come up to you, and say, "Will you write something for my daughter?" And you don't know them or their daughter. And what do you do? So you say something about Hornby Island, stupidly. That was actually really a disastrous reading because I was there on a Canada Council reading, so the fee for the last 40 years has been $250 for a reading. And over dinner, I somehow talked about honorariums and things, and my host said, "Well, Bill Kinsella, WP Kinsella, is also here tonight, but he asked for an honorarium of $5,000, and we couldn't afford that, but we gave him $3,500. And I remember just thinking, I can't believe it, why wouldn't I have thought, but I couldn't have asked for $5,000 because I would not have thought I was worth it. I mean, this is I don't know if that's just low self-esteem or the truth. I know in America writers get $1,000, $15,000, $30,000 for readings, but I just thought, so all the door from my reading was going to Bill, and I thought, So I tell that story wherever I go to get my own revenge. But I still go on doing the readings for $250, whatever. Sometimes for nothing. Well, fabulous to hear you read, Angie. You never know what is going through anybody else's mind, let alone who's eavesdropping on you. That's the thing. I just assume nobody would ever know, sitting in the bakery, who anybody is. It's just we're all kind of. What I like about the Charlottes is it's a very leveling place. You're known if your jam sets, you have a good reputation. So that's what I was like, oh, thank God, my jam set this year. Some things. It's true, isn't it? Really, and that's so much better than. What's your next book about, or, how many awards have you been nominated for this time or not? It's awful. The pressures we live in with in cities, especially people in Toronto, where all those big G awards are. The Giller, they should have a G-string award, I think. The Giller, the Griffin, the Governor Generals, they're all Gs, right? Anyway, a couple of things after Angie's reading.
Sharon Olds, I remember watching her at the Writers' Festival, went reaching for her glass of water, and the ice, she was shaking so much, I thought, oh, please just get it to your mouth. So you did really well. You didn't spill the water. And I've done the same. My hand is shaking sometimes, so I think, just hope nobody notices, but you can hear the ice, tapping. St. Mary's Spring, the rumor on Charlotte's, or the myth is if you drink the water, you'll always come back. And the Haidas, of course, say that the Haida bucks go cheegan in St. Mary's Spring, which is the word for peeing if you're male. So you may have been drinking Haida buck cheegan, which is why the Haida would like to think you come back. And the Remington that you mentioned, that Angie mentioned, is actually on my website. My daughter's a photographer, and she took a picture of this. Somehow I inherited the person who gave the Remington to Angie, brought it to my house, and I didn't know what to do with it, so I put it in the woodshed. And my daughter took a picture of it on a table with some flowers, and it's on my website page where it says books. So this Remington is now, I'll have to add note that it was, did you ever do anything, write anything on it?
I did.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
I shouldn't have taken it to the garbage dump. Actually, that's where it ended up. Oh dear, I could have sold it at a literary auction. Recycled it, rather. I love the way Angie says India, too. We've all started saying India. Because I guess in India, that's how you say India, right? And you also can't say oogle, neither can I. It's another thing we have in common. Oogle, ogle, ogle. I don't know what the word is. Ogle. Is it ogle? But I have it at home, and I do the same thing. I stop, and I look up, and I go, oogle, ogle. I'm not going to read that poem. So anyway. And now I'll be eavesdropping on Angie. It is true, and Moon over Naikun just burned down the night before I left the Charlottes, March 11th, and I phoned Wendy that morning because Angie and I were trying to figure out how we'd make a living this summer, and we decided we would work there baking pizza and cookies this summer, and I phoned Wendy that morning and I said, we'd like to work for you this summer, and she said, great. So then it burned down. So people from the Kootenays were sleeping upstairs, and they left the wood stove open, and Angie and I were eating Welsh cakes and drinking, oh, there's another Angie story. Angela was house-sitting, I use up all my time telling Angela stories. We were house-sitting for some people, and she drank the last of the Tia Maria in a bottle. Well, there was only one drink left, but she thought, being generous, that she should buy a whole bottle for them to replace it. But she didn't think it was really fair to leave the whole bottle, so we had to drink 3/4 of it. You could actually leave more than you found, but anyway, we were drinking this and eating Welsh cakes that I just made, Welsh scribble cakes, when the fire engines went by. And Angela started getting nervous because she lives in the spare grill right behind the bakery, and we were sitting for about 15 minutes nervously because fire engines never go by, especially off the grid, because everything burns down before they get there. That's why it's off the grid and why you pay. There's no insurance, you can't get it. So eventually we got in the car, and sure enough, there was the bakery and 5 huge spruce trees, and all this, the history of the artifacts and everything. Paul collected amazing things over the years. So, but somebody posted, I don't know if Angela's here tonight. I don't think she is she? She posted something about the Italian proverb, when the house burns, warm your hands by the fire. And I thought, the islands, people rally and make the best out of something, which is, I suppose, what we always do in communities.